Hey, what's up, everybody? BDR44 coming at you with another video. All right, so rumors about Miles Turner potentially being somebody that the Bucks would want to move on from. He's on a 3-year deal, I think like 26 a year. Not my favorite contract in the world. I like Miles Turner as a stretch five, and I definitely appreciate his shot blocking ability. The rebounding isn't really there. To be honest with you, it's not. And he's getting up there in age a little bit. So paying him 28 a year is somewhat of a nuisance for really anybody's books at this point, in my opinion. But considering that we have such a gaping hole in our center position right now, given the fact that we only have really 2 centers rostered and one of them may opt out, although I don't think he will. Ayton may opt out. It's expected that we will be able to retain Jackson Hayes. Of course, he's going to be playing with Luka on the Serbian team. I think people just shoot him in as somebody who wants to play with Luka because Luka's really activated his game and got his career going. So he's been signing 1-year deals with the Lakers for the last 3 years. I'd assume he'd want to sign a deal with the Lakers that probably gives him at least another secured year, more than a 1-year deal. I think he's earning at least a 2-year deal at this point. So I don't know. But the point is he's a luxury center, not somebody you want to have to rely on, somebody you can catch lobs. He's improved defensively, switching, stuff like that is improved, but there's still some strong limitations. He's actually been able to hit 3-point shots at a really remarkable clip considering that he's a non-shooter. I would tell him to make that a part of his everyday workout scheduling process, try to turn himself into a stretch five if possible, because he's hitting shots. We just don't ask him to take them, but once every 2 months he'll take one and he makes it. So for me, it's like that's something I think he should want to explore in his professional career, to see if he's a decent shooter, see if there's something there, because we've seen Brook Lopez be that same way, played several years, made all-star teams as a non-shooter, and then discovered his 3-point shot, and now that's what he's known for. It can extend your career. And a guy like Jackson Hayes, who is already very switchable, very, very desirable to put on the floor for his speed and his athleticism, if he could become a stretch five, now that opens up positional versatility. Now people will feel comfortable putting him at the 4 at times, for which, as a lighter guy in the back pocket, is very ideal. When you only weigh about 225 pounds, people would love to be able to put you at the 4 spot, but they can't do that necessarily and let you stretch the floor. Percentages tell us we should be exploring his ability to stretch the floor. So that's what I would say with Jackson Hayes. I hope that he's taking that seriously and expanding his game. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you have him potentially resigning. You expect he resign. Ayton is expected to opt in unless he sees something on the market that pays him more than $8 million, which I don't think he's going to find. But he would be expiring at that point for that final year. That should be something that you could attach either now in the offseason or at the trade deadline and potentially be able to get, move it. There are teams who need expiring contracts, teams that are in a bit of a hole financially, and the Bucks seem to be one of the ones that are the worst. And we talk about the Bucks all the time, with the stretching of Dame Lillard's contract and, of course, the Miles Turner contract. So if they can find a landing spot for the Miles Turner contract and get back salary relief, something that doesn't have them paying $23 million for the next 3 years, that should be attractive to a rebuilding squad who now has 2 bigs up front. They could see themselves moving off of Miles Turner and playing their young fellas, Ware and Ament in the front court. Now, from what I understand, they might be interested in moving Ware. I would tell them that we would be very happy to take Ware off their hands. But I do think that the vision for me with the Bucks would have Ware as a part of it. So that's just my vision. I think Ament and Ware could be interesting. They both stretch the floor. They both are almost 7 feet. They both can block shots. Both run the floor very well. So that, if you can keep Ware engaged, that seems like a pretty interesting start to a front court. Obviously, you want to play the draft a little further. You would love to get your beefy, meaty center somewhere in there. But as far as him having an interesting start to a front court development process, I think Ware should be a part of the vision. So that's just my take on it. But the message that's out there is that they might be willing to part ways with him, and definitely would love to move on from Miles Turner's contract. So, given the fact that we have very few options at the center position, I just think it's a decent thing to consider. It's already been put out there that the Lakers are willing to use their cap space to relieve teams with financial burdening if it'll attach them assets that they can be pleased with. And so Miles Turner, I don't think you can get them to attach a first to Miles' contract, but you could probably get them to take back a contract that you would like to move on from with a less useful player. Vanderbilt, less useful. He's on a multi-year deal at like 15 or something like that, somewhere around there. We would love to get that off their books because we don't use Vanderbilt. He's not somebody that coach is willing to play. He's useless to us. But for the Bucks, if they take his contract and give us Miles Turner, that's cap relief. And then we attach two expirings, maybe Dalton Connect and DeAndre Ayton if he opts in, or Jake LaRavia along with Vanderbilt. That might be able to be a salary match that they would be interested in. It gets them rid of a contract that they need to get rid of. It gives us a center that we could probably better utilize than they can at this point. Someone that feels a need for us. Is not nearly as much of a burden for the Lakers to have Miles Turner's bad contract, because we're going to use Miles Turner. And we really need a center. We don't have any options of getting one. So they can take Vanderbilt. They only pay him $15 million for the next 2 years. He could run around on a bad team, probably be utilized in more useful ways since they have such a deficiency at depth. I think that would be a good scenario for both teams if they would be willing to take Vanderbilt and we would be willing to take Miles Turner. Now, Miles Turner is not the greatest rebounder, so that's a little bit of a thing. We don't like rebounding deficiencies, but we do like the idea of a stretch five pulling Wemby away from the basket and somebody who could provide us adequate rim protection. Now, Miles doesn't have the jumping ability to catch lobs and stuff like that, so he's not an ideal center for Luka. And if you're paying him $23 million for the next 3 years, you kind of don't want to be stuck to a guy that doesn't really fit the Don. So that would be the con. But if it's going to get us a center and have it so that we're not running around with, not so good centers, Miles Turner probably is something that you want to. It's probably a burden you would welcome into your life if you're the Lakers, considering our options. So that's something to think about. I would not be willing to attach a first to that. I don't expect the Bucks would either, but if you take our trash, we could use your trash. You know what I mean? We could use your trash. He's not going to necessarily be trash for us. So that's something theoretical. Hopefully he would be continuing to play at a high enough level, even though he's an older guy. I don't know how old he is, but he's not very young. So that's something to think about if all else fails. From what I understand, also the Lakers are very much interested in Mitchell Robinson. I would love to bring Mitchell Robinson in, but if he's my starting center, I'm in trouble because he is not reliable to stay healthy and he can't shoot the free throw very well, so he'd be hacked a lot. So if he's your answer, you're in trouble. And he's not very offensive in general, so you would be taking some steps back from what your offensive capabilities would be when you turn Ayton into Mitchell Robinson. Now, he's a great offensive rebounder, definitely a fantastic shot blocker, but again, I think he's made out of glass, and I don't expect him to stay healthy in a starting role. So that's really what it comes down to. I need center depth. If we're going to add him and a couple other people, that's wonderful. He would be an excellent addition. I think he's going to want to make more money than what he's made last year. Of course, he won a championship with the Knicks. I think he's probably going to want to be paid upwards of like probably $10 million a year for my backup center. In a nutshell, hell no, I don't want to do that. For our circumstances, it would probably be wise for me to consider. So that's what I'm saying from a Lakers standpoint. Another name I heard about is Robert Williams. Probably costs a little less, just as injury prone. Younger though. I like Robert Williams as my backup. I think he's an excellent rim protector. He's already proven he could play, but I just think that His injuries have piled up a little too soon into his career, and it's eating away at what you would expect his body to be able to do going forward. I just don't know where he's at in his career. Obviously, the Blazers have plenty of center depth ahead of him, so you just don't see him on the floor much. It's probably for the best since he's so damn fragile. So that's the thing. I mean, I would love to have him. If I'm putting him and Mitchell Robinson together, I still expect there are going to be times where neither one of them going to be on the floor. So, yes, do we have adequate rim protection if we can add those two? Yes. Do you want to overpay for both of those guys just for them to be missing 50 games a season? No. If you have to rely on one of them because the other one's out, you have a problem because they shouldn't be relied upon physically to do too much, either of them. So that's you're setting yourself up to be frustrated, but you are setting yourself up with fantastic rim protection at all times, which I think directly affects winning. So I'm not mad at that option, keeping Jackson Hayes and then adding both Mitchell Robinson and Robert Williams, two very fragile, very gifted shot blockers. Fragile as hell, though. So that's just, it's a risk, but it's something to consider. Another name I'm hearing, of course, is Walker Kessler. The Los Angeles Lakers are probably holding out so that they can reach the date where it is possible to send out contracts to restricted free agents. I think that's on the 7th or something like that. I'm not really sure. Somewhere in the first week of July. I think it's one of those situations where you want to kick the can with him because he checks off a lot of the boxes. He's young, although very fragile as well, and hasn't proven himself to be on the floor very much. He is still somebody who can, in theory, stretch the floor very well. He's been able to hit shots, and he's a defensive hub, a much higher level defensive hub than Mitchell Robinson or Robert Williams currently. I don't know if I'd feel the same way if this was them in their prime, though, especially with Robert Williams and how devastating he was with the Celtics, but we're a long way away from those days. Right now, the better of the three defenders, the more reliable of the three fragile defenders, is definitely Walker Kessler. The problem with Walker Kessler is there's two problems. One, you expect that Danny Ainge will be willing to keep him. He should be a part of their future right now. Young center, defensive front court of him and Jaren Jackson look devastating. And if I'm being real with you guys, if I had to choose between one of the two contracts and I'm not mentioning Jaren Jackson in this, although his contract's not very good either, but I'm not necessarily moving him. Markkanen or Kessler for the Jazz, I thought about it this morning, and I said I'd probably move Markkanen. I think I can get more from Markkanen. Markkanen's also very fragile, and I have a spot at the 3 that I would like to fill with Ace Bailey. I got Darren Peterson at the 2, Keontae George at the 1, Filipowski also at the 4. Markkanen eating up 35 and 40 minutes is drawing away from those other guys' ability to play up their value and get their opportunities on rookie contracts. So while you're sitting here paying Markkanen all this money to shoot threes and be cool as an all-star level floor spacer, you got young guys that need opportunities that could prove to be very valuable if they get them, not getting them. And so Markkanen is getting paid like a superstar. I have the position filled with multiple players that he's eating up with his big minutes. I'm moving him to keep Kessler if I'm Utah. Just being honest. If it comes down to which one I'm choosing, it's going to be Markkanen. I'm taking that Markkanen contract and I'm sending it somewhere, and then I'm going to let my young guys run. Because Markkanen is a win-now guy who's been in this situation for 4 years. Nothing is happening there. Maybe they could be a lot better with him, but again, he's on the floor for 35 minutes playing the 3 in the 4 spot. That's minutes that should be going to Flip. That's minutes that should be going to Sensabaugh. That's minutes that should be going to, obviously, Ace Bailey. I don't need Markkanen eating up all those minutes when we're losing the same games. You know what I'm saying? Eating up all that money when we're losing the same games. And so that's my take on the Utah Jazz. I think they probably could use Walker Kessler a bit more than Markkanen if I had to choose between the two, because Walker Kessler is that defensive hub in the paint. Jaren Jackson is a little undersized at the 5, and I would prefer to put Jaren Jackson at the 4. Markkanen likely plays the 3. Cleveland showed us several years ago that you could play Markkanen at the 3 very comfortably, so he can definitely do that. But again, Ace got to move to the 2, and who's not getting minutes? Sensabaugh not getting the minutes properly. Ace is obviously going to be on the floor at the 2. He probably best at the 3. Now Darren's in place. As soon as you see what Darren can do, you're going to realize he's your best player. Obviously, Keontae George, all-star level guard, mainstay on your team. You're not going to move him. So it's like I hope that they're not looking at things this way and are looking at this saying, okay, we're going to put Markkanen and flip it to 4, Jaren at the 5, and we'll allow Kessler to walk. But for me, I'm moving Markkanen. That's who I'm moving. So I just don't think I don't know what the guys are thinking, but I'm not necessarily up for moving Kessler. Now, here's the thing. If you offer Kessler a certain amount, it becomes irresponsible for the Jazz to pay him that amount, depending on how many years you commit. It's the same thing I said about Hartenstein. Although he re-signed yesterday, 3-year deal. Don't remember what it was, but he's staying with the Thunder for 3 years. I said that he probably wouldn't get any more than a 3-year deal. He got a 3-year deal. It's because they drafted Mara. It's because they got Sorber back there. It's because they got Jay Will. All those people are eventually supposed to take his spot as he ages. You want Ademar to be the starting spot. I'm not certain that Ademar won't steal that starting spot even before that point. So that's how good Mara could potentially be. Whatever the case may be, you didn't want to commit him to 4 and 5 years when you got these young guys behind him. It's the same situation when it comes to Kessler to a degree, because their lineup is set up a certain way to where now they're going to have to start moving off from young players on good contracts so that those players can get those opportunities. It may be in their best interest to cap off the year demand on Kessler, especially since he's been fragile his entire career with this team. You don't want to commit to him no 4 and 5 years if the Utah Jazz upwards of $40 million. That is not something they're going to want to match. So I don't know if I'm willing to do that if I'm the Lakers, although I'm year in and year out, I'm going to be happy to have Kessler as my center because I need him as a mainstay to provide rim protection, floor spacing, and rebounding at a very, very high level for Luka Doncic. So that piece is extremely important to a Luka championship level franchise situation. And for me, I don't give him 40 a year. I'll probably cap it off at like 35. But I would be talking about something that would be a bit of an overpay for Walker Kessler to try to get him away from the Utah Jazz. Because once you start getting into a certain range, then it becomes irresponsible for Danny Ainge to re-sign him at that price. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't know if that's true. Danny Ainge can be a bit of a wild card. And you ain't just about to take something from Danny Ainge, really. But at some point in time, Danny has to weigh that ego against what's feasible for his basketball team. And paying Walker Kessler $40 million in 4 years, 40 is crazy for the Jazz with the construct of their roster. That's nuts. For us, just like I said about Miles Turner, you can absorb it. You can absorb it because you really need that damn center. And you really don't want to keep thinking about this for the next 4 years. So if you can get that 23-year-old center that shot blocks, hits threes, rebounds, does all this stuff at a high level on a contract that you don't have to worry about for the next 4 years, that's probably something you want to do. So, like, it's a trash contract, believe me, especially if he stays as fragile as he's been. What you're counting on is that the injuries that he's had are not leg injuries, hip injuries. You know, he was out with a shoulder. That heals up. That's a healable injury in theory. He did miss a lot of time with it, but it's not like he coming back from Achilles or blown knees, double blown knees and surgery. That's not what it is. He had a shoulder, and that's what's kept him out a good majority of the time. He was on a tanking basketball team, so they'll let him sit for a month when he had a rolled ankle. So that's what the context, I believe, is to Walker Kessler. He has proven to be fragile, but they have also been proven to not need him on the floor and not use him because of it. And when he's out there, he is a very, very productive player on both sides of the floor. So a team that's devoid of centers, who has a win now timeline, would probably be more comfortable overpaying him than a team with an abundance of young players on rookie contracts who are soon going to be looking elsewhere if they don't get their opportunities. I'm going to try to outbid Danny Ainge by paying Walker Kessler a little more than what the field would probably be comfortable with, and I'll just bite the bullet and hope to God that we have more injury luck with him than he's had with the Jazz. Risky, but in this situation, risk is probably what you need to be doing, because otherwise we're going to be bringing ourselves these one-year deal centers, and we're going to look up and Luka's going to be a free agent, and we're going to be scared we're going to lose him because we don't have the pieces in place to even give him a chance to win. I can't let that happen. I can't. Like if I'm Rob Pelinka, I made that mistake many times with LeBron and AD, and we got away with it. With Luka Doncic, I can't risk it because he's already in a space where the team he was loyal to betrayed him. So everything in theory should be very, very conditional around here for Luka. You give me what I need. If you don't, I'm pretty sure I can find somewhere else to play. Now that's not what Luka's saying, but that's what makes sense when you consider it. So, no, I don't want to play with Luka. I don't want to toy around with his timeline. I don't want to toy around with his loyalty. I don't want to toy around with his head. If he said he wants shooters and a center, I think we need to be trying to do what we can to get his shooters in the center. Now, I'm lower on Jalen Duren right now after watching a video on him, breaking down what his deficiencies are, breaking down how bad he played in the playoffs. I think we could use him as an all-star center, 22 years old, even younger than Kessler. But he doesn't stretch the floor. He's not the greatest rim protector, despite being a body that you would think is a good rim protector. I think Jalen Duren could afford to lose some weight. He's not a fat person by any stretch of the imagination, but he looks like he could be a lot better if he were to lose like 15, 20 pounds. He could be more likely to be switchable, more so likely to block shots and stuff like that. He just looked a little clunky to me at this stage in his career. I'm not willing to pay him $40 million because the stretch the floor dynamic is not in place with Duren. Now, Duren is considered, by all accounts, the more productive player than Kessler. I think some of that has to do with conditioning. Kessler is, like I said, he's a little more fragile. He's not the athletic player that Duren is. He ain't the beast of a specimen that Duren is. Detroit did a lot of winning as of late, that kind of thing. So I just look at Duren as a more sturdy body, really. But he's not as skilled as Kessler. He's not as defensive as Kessler. He's a better rebounder, I think, and he's certainly a better bet to stay healthy. But for what you are, a Western Conference team that needs to be able to pull Wemby away from the basket, and a Western Conference team that needs your defensive anchor because you got two deficient superstar guards, I think Kessler is definitely the better fit for what we are. He's a better fit for what we are. So I am not going out on a crazy limb to bring Duren to me because I don't know that the fit's that great. And if I put him on a contract where I'm stuck to him for 4 years, I'm probably still going to be looking for somebody else, as to which that would be a mistake. Kessler, the only thing that's going to make me want to move on from Kessler is if he continues to be as brittle and frail as he's been, which is a real thing to consider. But again, we don't have a lot of options, man. We have to solidify our center position for not only for this year, but for the next 3 years, if you ask me. We need that piece solidified. We didn't draft our center, and that's fine. I'm happy we took Cam Carr. It's what I would have did too. But now this is where you pivot and say, all right, let's make sure we get one. So these are the center options that I've been hearing about. All of these players are defensively sound or gifted defensively, each and every one of these guys that we're talking about. Duren's probably the least of the defender of the four of them, and he's a good defender. He just made an all-star team last year. So, you know, these are guys that provide you depth defensively. For me, I like the idea of Naz Reid, although from what I understand, the Charlotte Hornets have not said anything about retrading Naz Reid after acquiring him. For whatever reason, the media has attached itself to the idea that Naz Reid could potentially be on the move and acquirable for the Los Angeles Lakers. Of course, we did the botched deal with the Charlotte Hornets last year where we sent them Dalton Connect in the first. Maybe if you send them that same deal, they will be willing to give you Naz Reid. I don't know that Naz Reid is worth the same thing to them that Mark Williams is. Probably not. But if they don't see a future with Naz Reid, he's definitely an option at the center spot too. Now, the problem with Naz Reid is I like him better without having so much defensive responsibility attached to him. I don't think he's a negative defender. He's proven to me by eye test that he can play some defense, but I definitely do not think that he's going to be a good enough defender for the role that we need him to play. Turner, Robinson, Williams, and Kessler are all much better defenders than him. So I look at him as a stretch 5 who can play some 4 because of it. Hit or miss when it comes to how good he is. He's usually his best when he plays against us. Not necessarily against everybody else. He can be inconsistent. He can miss a lot of shots at times. But he's a cult hero in Minnesota, and that wasn't for no reason. He's a really good, talented player. And I would love to have him as a part of our situation, if for no other reason than to stretch the floor for that same dynamic that we talked about. So I would be open to that. I don't think the Charlotte Hornets are. I don't know why it's going around that they'd be willing to trade him. But looking at their roster logically and looking at their play style, I don't think they will. I don't actually think he's on the market. So that's just my take on things. Charlotte is a win-now team, despite moving on from LaMelo Ball. I have come to understand that the return they got from LaMelo Ball is not nearly as nice as I thought it was when I reacted to it. So I will go on record saying that I've changed my opinion a little bit as it pertains to just how much Charlotte should be pleased with that deal. A lot of them swaps, when you really break down them swaps, they weren't worth half of what I thought they were. And I'm willing to admit that. I still don't think that LaMelo and Anthony Edwards are going to work. But listening to people break down why they think it's going to work, I will argue that maybe I just don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Perfectly fine with that. Still learning the game. I ain't no professional baller. The scouts, all of the scouts unanimously say that Melo and Ant are going to work. I'm the only person that crapped all over that deal. I just didn't like it. I don't like the idea of Melo and Ant-Man's personalities trying to win a championship in a serious situation. I don't think they can be. But maybe they'll prove me wrong. And I think that LaMelo Ball, although he's a fantastic floor spacer and passer, I think he's a wild player who's used to losing. And I just think that some of his shooting stuff is going to be taking possessions away from Ant-Man. And when that works in the regular season against the Sacramento Kings and the Bucks, and may not necessarily work when you're trying to win real serious games against the Thunder, the Spurs. So that's my take. I just don't think they're very serious. But listening to all the analysts, they've broken down why they think that this is such a complimentary thing. Ball is going to obviously activate people in ways that the Timberwolves haven't been seeing. So that's a very interesting. I'm looking forward to being wrong because I'm a real fan of both of those guys. I just don't like the idea of them together being coached by that coach. I don't like that. But hey, we'll see what happens. Point being, I'm higher on that trade now than I was when I made my video yesterday. Either direction. I think that I've been listening to enough commentary to provide a good antithesis to my opinion. So when it really comes down to it, maybe the Charlotte Hornets, because they only got one first and Naz Reid, would like to then flip Naz Reid for more first, and we were willing to give them a first for Mark Williams. Maybe we'd be willing to give them that same first for Naz Reid. When it really comes down to it, Mark Williams and Naz Reid both are not known for their defense. Neither one of them are probably any good for our situation in the long term for that reason. But Naz is a piece, again, that you can play in other situations other than just being your center that's supposed to defend, and he would fit on this roster and many rosters, including the Charlotte Hornets, pretty damn well if you have that center position solidified. I think that you can argue that the Charlotte Hornets probably don't want to use Naz Reid because they have Hannes Steinbach, Moussa Diabaté, and Ryan Kalkbrenner all in place as high-level bigs. And you couple that with Miles Bridges, of whom they've been reluctant to move over the years. Now you don't really see a role for Naz, or if he's taking a role from one of those guys, etc. So maybe it's addition by subtraction if they could turn Naz into something else. I'm not inclined to agree based on their high three-point shooting dynamic. I think he fits right in with that. But Yeah, you definitely don't want him eating away at Musa or Ryan's minutes. But I felt like the Hornets needed positional size anyway, so adding Nas to that rotation was probably not a bad thing for that reason. Whatever the case may be, Charlotte, the last I heard, were not moving Nas. So who knows what's really going on there. But yeah, man, that's our center information right now. The next thing I want to say is that I heard that the Lakers are interested in prying Peyton Watson away from the Denver Nuggets. Denver is in a real bad cap hole too. They need to move people like Christian Brown and Cam Johnson in order to create the space for Watson. Maybe they'll be able to do that. I don't think it would be a shortage of suitors for a guy like Cam Johnson. Christian Brown, on the other hand, he's coming off a real bad season, long injury. You know, it would have been easier to move him 2 years ago, put it like that. But whatever the case may be, they need cap relief. I don't know where they're going to get it from. They should have kept Terrace Reed as a backup for Jokic. They decided to move him for 2 seconds, I think, to the Spurs, which was absolutely asinine. Probably the worst decision of the entire draft. And, yeah, I really don't know where this is going for the Nuggets, but I do know that they're going to have a hard time matching Peyton Watson if that price goes up too high. It's been said that they would be willing to match him at $30 million, I think. Maybe they go a little higher than that if they can create the space. But if you offer him 35, one may think they might be able to get him if you're the Lakers. My focus with restricted free agency for me is most definitely Kessler in Utah. I need to focus on getting that piece. That's the piece that I think the Lakers should be focused on. Peyton Watson was extremely impressive last season. He is a very, very talented wing who specializes in shot blocking and has turned himself into basically an all-world scorer. Can ball handle, mid-range jump, dunk. He is a two-way wing that specializes at the 4, in my opinion, but you can get away with playing him at the 3 now for certain. Went to college, UCLA. I really love the piece. The problem is he really had a bad injury last year that he tried to come back from and had setbacks to where he needed to sit back down. Now he's going into free agency asking for top dollar. I'm not so sure what's going on with the injury. I would need to see him healthy before I feel comfortable paying him $35 million a year. But if he is healthy, I think you'll be happy you have him at $35 million a year if he continues on the ascension he was right before getting hurt last year. Because he broke all the way out. He broke all the way out. So I definitely think he's a hell of a piece. But I would not want to pay him any more than Denver would. I wouldn't want to pay him any more than Denver would. I would want him on a good contract just in case his injuries keep on kicking his tail. I think there's a lot of juice to squeeze out of him when he's healthy because he has really turned himself into an all-star level guard, forward rather. But as is, this is a Jaden Quaintance type situation where you would love to be able to redshirt him for a year to just make sure his conditioning is where it needs to be if he doesn't look himself this season. And I'm not going to be paying $35 million for that man to be sitting around. So I don't think the Lakers are looking at it that way. I think they're assuming they're going to play him this year. But I think there's a decent chance that he's not going to play the full season this year, and it's probably best to not ask him to. He needs to be working on his conditioning. And I don't know what he's doing in the offseason. I don't know. Maybe he comes back looking great. But I would feel much more comfortable if he sat to the All-Star break next season, comes back fully healthy, in immense shape, ready to pick up where he left off before he got hurt. That's what I would want for Peyton Watson. That's just me, though. I don't know that he needs that much time. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe that's not even a thing. But if you have setbacks on an injury, I feel like you should redshirt the next season. I really do, depending on how bad the injury was, and his was bad. So that's my thing on Peyton Watson. I'm a believer in what I saw prior to the injury for certain. And we could definitely use what he is. However, I think calculus needs to change on a couple of things. Maybe I'm overthinking this, or maybe I'm too hasty. But once you get Cam Carr you shouldn't be as desperate to get a wing anymore. Now, you still need to address the wing spot. But the idea that I need to be taking on Lou Dort's contract, that's when I thought I was drafting Terrace Reed or Henry Vason. Now that I got Cam Carr, I don't think the urgency for me to get Lou Dort is the same. Now, that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be happy to get Lou Dort or Peyton Watson, but it does mean that I think the idea when we were formulating these thoughts about these players, we didn't see a world where you were getting an all-world-class wing. You were assuming you were going to be getting a center, and it was worked into your equation that you needed to address your wing otherwise. Cam Carr flew out of the sky and changed the world for us, basically. Now, you have a lot more leverage with your wing position. I don't have to bring in Lou Dort. However, it may equate to you not having Carr anyway if coach don't play him next year. And Cam Carr does need to put on a lot of weight before he's ready to play that role. So if you're going by what you saw from JJ ain't gonna play Cam like that. He ain't gonna play him like he should. But if JJ knows what's good for him, he'll consider doing so any damn way, because Cam Carr is exactly what needs to be on the floor in the starting lineup with Luka Doncic. He's exactly what you need on the floor with Austin and Luka. So I personally, next year, we see where we at with Cam Carr as it pertains to when the season starts, summer league, preseason. We're a long way away from knowing where he's at. But depending on how good he looks, I'm putting him in the starting lineup next to Austin, Luka, and LeBron if he comes back, Walt Kessler if we can get him. I'm putting him out there. And we're going to see what happens. You know what I mean? Because he checks too many boxes. And I think he's going to play at a high enough level to make that make sense in theory. But I don't know that theory is going to play itself out the way that I see it in my head. We'll see. I doubt it. I doubt the Lakers will do that. But if push comes to shove, I'm not overpaying for a wing. Put it like that. I'm not overpaying for a wing. So that's really what I want to say, man. Those are the rumors that I've been hearing. Hopefully the Lakers can get Kessler, dude. Honestly, that's the one. Kessler's the guy. And he harbors a great deal of risk with his injury issues, but he's the fit piece and the defensive anchor that I trust to lead us into the future. I wasn't as high on Kessler in the past, but when you sign Austin Reeves to this contract, you need to take your defense your rim protection and your center position much more seriously, because you have invested heavily in non-defensive players in your front court. And where's LeBron stand in all of this? I don't know, man. And I'll tell you, you're getting all these pieces for Luka Doncic. I don't know that your team is going to be that great, even if you do all this, if you don't have LeBron in place with his high floor ability at this stage in his career. Very few mistakes, high percentage looks, rim pressure, rebounding, upside, playmaking gift. It's a lot of things LeBron does for your team, man, that I think people are neglecting to acknowledge because they're falling into the idea that they want the old man who has all the attention on him all the time out of the way. But on the court, for this roster, especially if you're about to lose Marcus Smart, you really need LeBron James playmaking and rim pressure and overall basketball IQ. If you're going to remove that, you're going to lose more games than you expect to. And you're going to be extremely heavily relying on Luka and Austin staying healthy. That's not something I'm willing to bet too heavily on right now. So I think they should put a little more priority on keeping LeBron James than what I'm hearing. Because I think at the end of the day, people can have LeBron fatigue, but they're going to be even more tired of losing when you don't have him out there. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just warning people. I'm sensing this energy that LeBron doesn't matter. And I'm telling you, yes, he does. And if you play yourself thinking that he doesn't for this roster, it's going to cost you wins next season. It's going to cost you. You're going to lose some games you ain't used to losing, and it's going to be because he ain't out there doing the things that he does. So the transition, dunking stuff, and all of that. You need that stuff on this roster. So I would tell the Lakers, you better put some respect on LeBron's name, man. Put some respect on LeBron's game. It's one of the biggest mistakes this year's Laker team can make, is thinking that you're going to bring yourself all these pieces that we've been talking about, and then you're going to move forward with just Luka and Austin. They're just going to carry you down the road. It ain't going to happen. You better have that LeBron James piece in place, or your ass going to be losing. Consider yourself warned. And the last thing I want to say is Marcus Smart should be a priority to bring back because he provides us so many different things. I don't think our team wins as much without Marcus Smart last year either. But I'm not willing to overpay for Marcus Smart, especially with his injury history. We got a healthy year out of him, good year out of him. He's aging. And his decision-making left a lot to be desired at times. But I don't think our team would be half as good without him last year. We needed that playmaker defending, doing all the dirty work, putting forth his body on the line all the time. That is an extremely important piece as well to the functionality of our roster. So that's what I want to say. I would love to bring back the efficiency of Rui too. See, this is when we start having a conversation about running it back and the cons and the pros of running it back. I think that Rui Hachimura's hyper efficiency, shooting ability, and his size is something that the Lakers should be wise to consider keeping as well. Now, you can't have everything, but you're going to miss shots you're not used to missing when you do all the stuff that we've been talking about, and then you losing Rui and LeBron. You're going to miss shots you ain't used to missing, man. And you're going to be relying upon Luka to stay healthy when his conditioning has proven that you shouldn't be doing that. So, again, if you're going to replace Rui with somebody, just be ready for the shots that are going to be missed that he wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? Bring back some of our guys. Bring back some of our guys. I know people don't want to run it back. It may not be feasible to keep everybody, but when you start talking about LeBron, Rui, and Marcus Smart, y'all had better have replacements for what they are. Or your team is going to struggle without them boys next year. I promise you, in ways that you don't see coming. I promise you. BDL44, I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.